award.
I'm glad
Trucks
this
to
election
Nancy
was
on award.
He went to sleep.
just two.
Right, right, 18.
He went to sleep as soon as he came
18
in.
days.
Frank,
At least we'll be
It
legal.
can be illegal, yes.
you nervous?
Have you left it yet at all?
Apparently, until Eric became a blue nine.
No, service wise.
Oh, how cool.
I'm
Would know,
surprised
right?
it's still around. I was just worried about even speaking out.
Are you ready, Lola? We look forward.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay.
I had to get the baby.
Can I get the baby?
Okay, it's
So you don't have to
7:01.
do it Passover.
This is the July meeting of the VHCA Board of Directors. We have a quorum, and we'll get going right away. Mr. Juan, would you like to speak, sir?
I just looked at your agenda, I feel like I need to stick with it. Okay, a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about. I don't know if you received my last e-newsletter, but I'm kind of disappointed to have to report that the glass recycling situation has turned in a negative direction. Glass prices continue to drop, and Waste Pro, our recycling contractor, is no longer recycling glass. In fact, they're grinding it and taking it to landfill. So for those that are kind of fanatics about recycling like I am, I still just save my glass and I keep it, and you can take it to Charmed. It's a Center for Hard to Recycle Materials down by Turner Field, or Keep Atlanta Beautiful. They're still doing their monthly recycling. I believe it's the first Saturday of the month. They are absolutely recycling. Second Saturday, thank you, Debbie.
Where is that located?
It's over near Freedom Parkway and Boulevard. So, and then I think like Seven Nanda is still taking glass, and then some of the farmers markets are as well. So I'm hoping, I mean, we're just waiting for commodity prices to come back up. I will let you know as soon as they do, so that those that are separating them will know that it's okay to just start putting them back in
Quick question.
Yeah.
So there's other areas that are taking less, what, are they subsidizing the heating cost, or what are they doing with it?
Actually, most of the local Atlanta recyclers are taking them to landfill right now.
Absolutely.
The Academy
So even like Seven Nanda?
No. They are.
What are they doing with it?
See, the problem is when you do it all in one bin, it's cheaper rather than trying to sort the glass out, especially if it breaks. The glass ends up contaminating the cardboard and the plastics and all that. So if you keep it separate and they're solely recycling glass, it's worth the cost of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so out in California, they have like 4 different containers, which is kind of a pain, but has the city ever looked at doing that?
Not right now. I think the hope is that we just want to make it as easy as possible, and then when glass prices come up, people will go back to just recycling everything. And that's the challenge right now. That's why the city hasn't rolled out a big campaign to separate your glass, because they just don't want people to get out of the habit.
Yeah.
And I still want to separate mine. So anyhow, y'all will help spread that news. I appreciate it. Second thing is, speaking of recycling and solid waste, I just want to acknowledge the problems and the missed pickups that we've been having in the city. Just so you know, there have been a lot of staffing issues, and they just let the director of the solid waste department go as a result of this. So hopefully, once we get that position refilled, then we'll see some improvement. And we've asked both the Public Works Commissioner as well as the Human Resources Commissioner to give us a plan as to how they're going to just get back up to full throttle on that. And just be patient. If it is missed, please call 311. We still want that data. It's very, very important for us, particularly if we can start seeing patterns in there. But just call 311. The other big news, we passed, City Council authorized a referendum this November for MARTA, a half-penny sales tax to support MARTA projects. The list that we approved is huge. It's more than the funds that the half-penny will raise. That means is that when the city, if it gets approved, the city's going to negotiate with MARTA for the specific projects list. That will be, I think, in the 15th or 16th amendment to our MOU. But I think what a lot of it is stemming around trying to just do that last mile connectivity. Not just the big buses, but smaller buses and vans that get you really from the bus stops or the MARTA stations to where you're trying to go. It's been one of the big criticisms. As well as I think the Clifton Corridor is another big project that the city is looking at to fund out of that. And then we're in the middle of deliberating right now another half-penny T-Splosh. That's awesome. T-Splosh to fund additional infrastructure projects. transportation infrastructure projects. There is talk right now of maybe dedicating that whole half penny to Beltline. I'm not sure if there's enough support on council for that. I think there's still a lot of other need transportation-wise that isn't covered by our $250 million infrastructure bond. So I think transportation is going to debate that this Wednesday, with potentially full council voting on it next Monday. So stay tuned for that. And then finally, public service announcement. Don't forget, on July 26th, there is a runoff election in our area. I know 2 Fulton County Superior Court positions are open for runoff, so just be sure to go vote. I know Virginia-Highland, y'all are great about voting, but it's just always fun to remind y'all.
I want to take, if you don't mind, Jess's update on Monroe.
Yes. Okay. You want me to talk about it? Yeah. Okay, so Monroe Drive, some at least movement finally on this. There will, as I promised, there will be some public input processes around the Complete Streets project. And what Kwanzaa Hall and I are doing is we're combining the two so that it starts all the way in Piedmont and goes all the way down where it changes into Boulevard, all the way, I think, to Freedom Parkway. Just to do a comprehensive project so that it's consistent and to address some of the hot spots that are along the way. 10th and Monroe is obviously one of the biggest challenges we have. And what we're going to do is, we've had multiple meetings with the infrastructure bond people, as well as we pulled folks from Public Works, as well as folks from the Beltline, to really look at that intersection, because ultimately, I think we're going to have to find a way to really address the fact that it's the merging of pedestrians, cyclists, cars, and you've got the park, you've got the school, and you've got a lot of things happening there. I think ultimately we're going to have to figure out a way to get the pedestrians and cyclists over. It's going to take a lot more resources, a lot more people at the table. But the public input process for Monroe Drive is going to really start this, because we just want kind of the public input and engagement from beginning to end. I think the first meeting will be the end of August. We kind of wanted to wait until everybody got back from their school breaks. August 23rd is the date that I'm hearing. And as soon as I know that and get that confirmed, I'll let y'all know. It will be the first of several public input meetings. And I think what they want to know is kind of understanding the community's priorities. Is it pedestrian safety? Is it bicycle safety? Is it vehicle safety? Is it vehicle throughput? So just please be engaged with that. There will be other ways as well, I'm sure, through a website, and as soon as that all gets outlined, I'll let y'all know. The goal is to have a design ready, kind of agreed upon, or at least focused in on by early spring. So this is going to move pretty quickly, simply because it's been studied quite a bit. There are a lot of options that have been discussed, and it's just kind of reaffirming or getting a sense of where everyone's at on it. But the idea of Complete Streets is part of the infrastructure bond. We still have 3.5 years on that. We've got to get that substantially underway before the bond ends. So what I'm glad about is that's giving us a time deadline, and it's really forcing everyone to have a conversation. So August 23rd, I'm pretty sure that's the date, but I'll confirm that and send that out to everybody.
Since you're on a roll,
yeah,
let's talk about 10th and Monroe, the articles in the paper with
okay.
the food garages.
So that was the first that big proposed project where Crest Hill and 10th and Monroe is. It was the first that I heard about it as well. Interestingly enough, Jim Kegley, the property owner, had tried to set up a meeting with me earlier that week, but then canceled. And this is on top of the year-long conversation that we have been having with community members, with him, with attorneys, with a potential developer, about what the community's priorities, and quite frankly, the kind of the rules of engagement would be for that intersection. This kind of blew all of that out of the water. No application has been filed or submitted. It's just a rendering that for some reason they decided they wanted to start the process that way. I think they should have learned by now. And I've signaled to them that I basically, no matter what, will be standing with the community on this, that we started a process to really engage and have a productive conversation. We were making progress. This feels kind of a slap in the face to that. The other thing that does make me a little concerned about this is the law firm that they have engaged on this is Denton's, or the former McKenna, Long and Aldridge. They know their zoning, they know their processes, and they'll be good counsel for the developer. But like any application, any zoning change, there will absolutely be a public process, so, I know y'all will be there and fully engaged in that as well. But again, right now, no application on this, no formal movement, so I think they may have just been floating a balloon to see what would happen. I really wish that happened. So.
We're speaking with Kwanzaa
Okay.
later this week.
Okay.
He's already opined that he was taken out of context.
Okay, that's good.
And was in no way trying to comment on a project he had never seen.
Okay. Can we have her talk about Park Atlanta, because I want to hear that.
Certainly. Do you have any update on Park Atlanta?
Oh
folks?
boy, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, same before.
So,
I'm sorry to hear you don't. That's
well,
all.
all I know, I have a link, I can't talk, we can't talk about it now because the RFP is out. I have a link to the RFP, which I have not had a chance to go through and look. I'm curious as to what significant changes they made with this go-around that hopefully learn from our experience if this is the path that we end up going. It's our understanding that the administration has not committed to still outsourcing this, that they're moving in tandem, that they're putting this out because it's about a 6-month time frame before we can get a contract negotiated. But in the meantime, they're still evaluating if they were to do it internally. The one thing that does just kind of raise my eyebrows a little bit is I understand that the revenue number they're looking for in this round, it was $5 million in the last set. This time, I believe it's 7+. So they're upping that ante, but I don't know what they're thinking they're going to, the contract's going to do differently to yield that. So hopefully it's not more parking spaces. The one thing I will say though, there are a number of conversations that have been kind of opened and put on hold regarding parking spaces. Little 5 Points wants to look at swapping some currently metered spaces out for non-metered spaces just to help with some of their throughput. Some of the business owners at Virginia-Highland have asked possibly to remove some of the metered spaces in the commercial areas as well. So I think once we get a little further down the road with the RFP, it will open up an opportunity possibly to have some more conversation.
Okay, because we have some input for you on that.
I'm sure you do. Yeah. And I expect that. I expect that frankly. And what I would, we wouldn't entertain anything without coming back to y'all to get input on.
I know you have another meeting to go to. Any questions for the council member from anyone?
I have to email about something else, I'll forward.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right, Alex, at AtlantaDistrict6.com, you can go and get signed up for the newsletter if you're not already. And, everything's going okay.
Yeah, I'm about to walk out.
Okay.
So I'll
She's
walk on
gonna,
you.
yeah. Thank you very much. You want to give a
Do you want me to,
quick
yeah, the fire station,
Yeah.
we're just negotiating between the parties and don't have any new news, but seems to be moving ahead. Vacations interrupted. I'll walk out with Alex. I've got a competing meeting too. Sorry, guys.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Enjoy the brownies.
Yeah.
We have a motion to adopt the agenda without objection. Frank, let's go. Because you have a, please.
Okay. We're applying for variance for our house. We are building a second floor house. It's within the existing footprint. The variance is for the existing footprint is encroaching on the north setback on North Island. On Island View and on the west side of our house. And we're building within the existing footprint and that requires us to variance.
So we had a site visit. There were no tree or stormwater issues in the previous, because all the stormwater already collection in your backyard. So congratulations. It's all yours. That won't change. Lola, is there, the committee have a motion?
Yeah, move to recommend approval of 16 and 158.
Okay, all right, and I think the neighbors were notified, it was all done. Is there any discussion or comments?
Your variance request is for 1 foot 11 inches, is that correct?
1.9 feet, I think it got listed on the,
But it's less than 3, well, it's 1 foot 11 inches in the application.
okay, that's fine.
Something like that. Our existing house
It's
is
existing.
the driveway of our neighbor, and our existing house is about 2 feet apart.
So
That's
there is a
different.
driveway between the two homes?
It's correct.
Right.
Any other comments, questions? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, sir. You're all welcome. Thank you for bringing everybody. These are for your fine child here.
Okay.
To take these with you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd like to go back. Ms. Santana is here to talk to us from ABC about the upcoming Streets Alive.
I'd like some information, if you don't mind. Great, and when I'm passing it around and make it all the way up there. Is everyone familiar with Atlanta Streets Alive? Yes? Okay, so in case anyone isn't, first of all, I'm Mike Day. I am the Community Engagement and Volunteer Coordinator for Atlanta Bicycle Coalition. The Atlanta Bicycle Coalition is the organizer of Atlanta Streets Alive. While, you know, one of the purposes of organizing Atlanta Streets Alive is to provide a space for people to feel comfortable trying to ride a bicycle. It's for everyone, so, and on any mode of human-powered transportation. The route, which is actually different from how it was last year, it doesn't close. We're not closing the loop via North Avenue. So basically the same route, Highland and Virginia down to, or actually North Highland, Virginia to Highland and Boulevard, and then Boulevard to North Avenue. But we're just not closing that loop. We just moved to more linear routes for a variety of reasons. But I think that you guys will probably appreciate the not having the looped and having everything enclosed inside. It's on September 25th. It's on a Sunday as usual, and it's from 2 to 6. If anyone came out to Peachtree in June, that one was from 4 to 8, and that was kind of like a special thing. So we're back to the 2 to 6 p.m. And the street closure will actually be from 12:30 to 7:30. The event is actually from 2 to 6 though. And anyone have any questions about like what goes on at Atlanta Streets Alive or anything like that? One common misconception is that it's a street festival. While it is on the street and it is festive, really we're wanting people to engage with the community, with businesses, and experience the neighborhoods without the intensity of car traffic. Therefore, everything that you see on the street should fall under one of 4 categories, which is civic pride, health, livable streets, and transportation options. An example of transportation options, which is probably difficult to envision. So I'll give you an example of that. We've had the MARTA bus out there in the past and allowed people to try putting their bike on and off the rack, because that can sometimes seem intimidating, like in actual real life. So stuff like that. We have, I'm not sure if they're up right now, but AtlantaStreetsAlive.com is the website, and that's where you can go if you'd like to volunteer, or you can contact me directly. On that piece of paper is my email address and also the email address for Heather. So you can contact Heather if there's a business in the district or a community organization which would like to host an activity somewhere on the route. And there are applications online for that. I say application, but it's really just submitting what your activity is so that we can make sure that it's on the interactive map and make sure it adheres to those 4 categories that I mentioned before. The more activity and the more businesses that participate, the better the experience is. So please do, even if you yourself don't want to host an activity, but you know of an organization or a business that you feel would be a good fit to participate, then please send them our way. And on this on the same note, we do have a neighborhood ambassador program. We would love to have good representation from Virginia-Highland for our ambassador program. Our first meeting is next Tuesday, the 19th. Actually, we're in Virginia-Highland at Hand in Hand, from 5:30 to 7:30. The information is on the flyer, but you can also contact us if you're interested and you want to know more about the ambassador program, which is basically like a community outreach program so that you can act as a liaison between Atlanta Streets Alive and your neighborhood.
Thank you very much. I think Jess will be our ambassador and rep as she has been.
I have been in the past. This year I'm moving and planning a wedding, so we need a new ambassador.
What?
Well, I can find some.
Keith is gonna be devastated, first of all.
No, it's really fun. If you do know anyone who's looking to get interested and involved in the neighborhood, the ambassador program is super fun. We met probably once a month up to the event, and a little more frequently once it got close. And it was a great way to get to know not just Virginia-Highland, but other neighborhoods that were involved. And they have ambassadors too, so.
Any questions or comments? Thank you. Yes. go ahead.
Do you meet with the Virginia-Highland Business Association as well?
That was actually one of my questions for Jess and Lola, was if I couldn't find their meetings anywhere or a person to contact, so,
We'll get you in touch with the right people.
okay. So then, yes. Meeting with them.
Yeah.
We will be at the NPU, you guys are in N?
Yes.
F? Okay, so we'll be going to the NPU meetings as well as each neighborhood meeting that is touched by the route. So, and then also if there's an organization that you feel like we need to reach out to in particular, we're happy to do that, which is also why we need ambassadors, because otherwise we're like at a meeting every evening.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming very much. Say hello to everyone in the ABC course.
Do you mind if I grab one of your agendas? I realize they're up here.
You're actually on it. So.
Thank you so much.
You also have to get a brownie.
Oh my gosh, no.
something.
We've had
They're
too
very
many
good.
snacks, and I didn't ride my bike today because of rain, so, thank you.
Thanks.
Moving ahead is we're meeting on Thursday to hear, unless they defer, a proposal from the potential redevelopment of Rackwood Terrace Apartments. And beyond that, this will be the second one. The first one was declined after the proposers declined it, revised it, so nothing to say other than we'll be meeting them and we'll know something after that.
Same parties?
Same parties, and we'll be going with our same parties, Mr. Fortner and Mr. Zeckler. Jess, the stormwater medallion project.
That is set. So we have the stormwater medallions, and we have enlisted the help of the local Boy Scout troop to help us install them. And we'll be doing that in October. I think the first weekend in October. So if anyone's interested in participating, you can just reach out to me, and we'll loop you in.
It's cool stuff. We'll be doing cool, don't dump stuff in here on the storm drains. Only rain in the drain. It's a good idea. We're done. Any questions? We're on to Parks Committee, David.
Yeah, so not much outside of the John Howell Park grant. We received final construction drawings from Frawley and Associates, and those were being actually submitted down to Parks Design. We're waiting to get up to schedule, right?
Well, we're waiting for a reaction. Maybe we won't have to approve because they've already been approved.
So that's
Taking one more look.
really about it. The drawings have been submitted. The plans have not really changed much from what was already proposed. I have a copy of the plans if anyone wants to see them. I can shoot them to you electronically or I can bring them tonight, but when they have to show them. I think that's about it from that perspective.
Will they be posted?
Yes.
They're in your back issues of the substantially unchanged in the back issues of the voice, which is online. There's a few minor revisions. On to the Orem Park, I mean, we've actually been walking around Orem Park now that we've got 2 grants for John Howell and spent a lot of effort there. If we can get this, if we get this proposal executed, and I don't see why we can't, other than it may take a little while. John Howell, I hope, is going to be in extremely good shape. There should be virtually no stormwater runoff from it. I think the eroded areas will be replanted. The invasives will be substantially mitigated. And it's actually functionally in really good shape. Obviously, we're approaching time when the playground equipment will get replaced, but all of those infrastructure pieces are the city's. So we've been looking at Orem. Orem is functioning extremely well. It was a very successful grant there 7 years ago. And what got done there has worked very, very well. And folks who like Ms. Elizabeth, who was just here, a little older, tend to go to Orem. Slightly older kids tend to go, with some exceptions both ways, to John Howell. So the playground's in fine shape. the struggle there has been that the rest of the park has really not been touched, and there's some really beautiful, beautiful places in that park, particularly along the upper edge, the southern edge on Brook Ridge. So I think what we've been doing here, we've been talking to a series of natural resource specialists, and I think we'll be probably back with a proposal to ask the board for some money, not a ton. Probably not a ton. It's not that we wouldn't love to spend a ton,
That's
but probably not a ton, to try to do an analysis of this, identify and get explicit about the natural resource, particular natural resources, the trees. There's some ground level assets and their beautiful plants. There are some challenges in some eroding areas. None of this is going to change, I fear, immediately the use of the park, and some of this is going to be a challenge to do, but I think it's beyond the neighborhood park level, and we need to get really competent people, and we have some in this neighborhood, or we may hire one to take a quick analysis of that, and we'll come back with some more specific ideas and cost proposals. But that's what we like to do, and then take that from there and try to develop a coherent plan for how to preserve and get better access to those and identify them better and explain them. None of this is likely to address the stream, which is deeply incised and surrounded by mature trees. Really addressing that stream would take spreading the water, redoing the floodplain, and creating a wider corridor, and that's not going to happen with all those trees in. But we can at least try to stabilize it and end the erosion and reduce the stormwater. So we will do that. And that's it. That's just an FYI. We're walking around staring at it repeatedly and trying to come up. Yes, sir.
I suppose it's like it's always been, you don't get much chance of getting any money from the city since it's a city park or any of this kind of stuff, right?
That's right. Parks, while their budget is up and has stayed healthy, has very little discretionary money, so we'd be trying to look for other sources. But part of our theory on this, and it's a walking theory, it worked substantially at John Howell. John Howell's a very different animal. It was just suffering from neglect, but it wasn't as hard to see what needed to be done. There's some choices here, and some interesting choices, and there may be some sources. You know very well that we're grant fanatics, so we'll be looking for some support on this, but it'll probably be outside the city of Atlanta. And I think if we had a good comprehensive plan in mind with a vision attached to it and identifiable resources, we'd be in a much better position to try to do that.
Yeah, I think the first step, as Jack mentioned, is really to kind of understand the pillars and what's there from a hardwood and a native and invasive perspective, and understand that and move forward, get that codified, and then we can start looking at grants and we'll get the funding to do it, depending upon what do it means.
Questions? I'm going to drop back quickly. Mr. Carter's here from Councilmember Dickens' office. Sir, good to see you.
Good to see everyone as
Thanks
well.
for coming out. Do you have a word you want to say on behalf of?
No, I haven't actually been by here yet. I'm from Councilmember Andre Dickens' office. We're post 3 at large, so he's your citywide council member. Is everyone familiar with the at-large positions and all of that? Okay, great. So Councilmember Dickens, he now sits on the Utilities Committee. He sits on finance, and he's the chairperson of Community Development, Human Resources, CDHR. He also, with that appointment, or with that being the chair of CDHR, he sits on the boards of, he sits on there we go, Invest Atlanta, the Beltline, and the Center for Civil and Human Rights. That's the one that wasn't getting me. But so he sits on those boards because he is the chairperson of CDHR. The only thing that he really wanted me to mention was that he's working with your council member Juan on the Renew Atlanta bond and some things on 10th and Monroe. There we go, 10th and Monroe. And then in August, we'll have some dates on some community involvement and engagement pieces. They haven't gotten the dates yet or the addresses on where those meetings are going to take place, but they will take place in August. We'll let you know how that money is going to be spent. So
So
that's.
just missed Alex, he was just
He
here.
was just, I just missed him.
No worries.
No worries, no worries. But that was really about it. And I just try to get to as many community associations and neighborhood meetings as I can, along with all of the NPUs. So I do apologize that I'm just getting to you guys, but it's great to be here and see your faces. And we see each other all the time. So I'm just going to sit and listen, and I'll leave my card for whoever likes to have it.
Question, since Councilman sits on the Utilities Committee, is Google gonna go power wash our sidewalks where they like crazy and spray paint?
They spray painting your sidewalk?
When they ran the water underneath the wires?
Okay. Well, that's something that needs to be done, contact.
I mean, it's beautiful sidewalks that the Civic Association worked on to get redone have all been ruined.
Yeah, they need to be held accountable, so.
And like the water meter covers are painted solid blue, not just a dot, but solid.
Yeah,
It's
it's a phone
just
call.
obnoxious.
It's a phone
Thank
call.
you.
Yeah.
We'd like to vote on those colors if we're gonna have colors. Thanks for coming. You and Emil and the council member have been really good about
Thank you guys so
supporting
much.
everything.
Yeah, please call me. Anything you guys need, call me. I always tell our communities that you don't just have one council member, you actually have 5. You know, you have your 3 at large, you have your council president, and then you have your district rep. And all of us can do things for you and make calls, and if all 5 of us are calling on your behalf, it does much better than just one. You know, it really makes the issue move a lot faster. So, you know, that's what I'm here for.
Can I get her this one?
Oh, of course. Thank you. I don't want to hold up your meeting. Okay, thank you.
You ready, Ken?
Sure.
All right.
Okay, I'm Pamela Packner, also known as for the bean counter for Summerfest since about 2007. Yeah, Kevin took over after Kevin was, brought some revenues up to some new levels, and we've been steadily increasing revenues over the many years we've had Summerfest. This year was a big challenge for us, however, primarily because of the weather. You know, people make plans based on the weather forecast, and our attendance was significantly down this year. And so I just wanted to report on some preliminary numbers. I don't have the final numbers yet, and when I do, I'll share a copy of my spreadsheet without the final numbers with the board. But just by way of background, our banner year was 2012, when we had $190,000 in beverage revenues, and our number 2 year was 2014, when we had $160,000. Usually they're around $150,000, $135,000, something like that. Well, this year they were $108,000. So beverage revenue was down about probably $30,000 over an average year. And again, it was primarily because of the weather kept people away. The artist market, what you need to know about the artist market is that as the years go on, it's harder and harder to attract quality artists because they're retiring out of it, and new fresh blood is not coming into the field where you go around the country and set up a tent and sell your art. They're selling it over the internet and other ways like that. And so all over the years, Nancy and Julie, who run our artist market, have continued to do a great job. It's a juried artist market, which does attract higher quality art. And our revenues this year, they just go down a little bit each year. They were very comparable with last year. They're estimated to be around $60,000 this year, which is just down a little bit. So that was that. Festival sponsorships were down about $25,000 over the year prior. And since we changed our business model in 2013 is where we had a radio station bring in all the sponsors. They paid us a flat fee, and they also paid for the music. That worked out really quite well for a number of years until the radio station went to a completely different format and was no longer even music anymore. And there's no other radio stations that, well, it's kind of a declining business anyway, but there's no other radio stations that wanted to step up to the plate. So we changed our business model and decided, okay, we'll pay for the music, but we'll also get all the sponsorship revenue. And we found a vendor, Mix It Marketing, and they worked really, really well for us for the past few years, except this year revenues were a little bit down. Last year they brought in $109,000 in sponsorship revenues, and this year it was only $75,000. I don't think it's because they weren't working as hard. You may have noticed in years past we had some large activations, like Ford was one year, trying to think of some other ones, but we've had some that took up a big amount of space. And this year we had a lot of little guys. We didn't have any of the big activations. Part of that is, because we're constrained by space and it's not really the most ideal space, nor do we have a lot of it, sometimes we can't accommodate some of the higher paying sponsors. But this year, it just kind of turned out that a lot of them were, as they were planning their travels to go places throughout the country, they were out of the South by the hot summer this year. So we didn't have as much opportunity, and it is what it is. I think one of the things we can do next year is relook at the contract for Mix-It. Paige, you might have some thoughts on this as well. And maybe incent them, past a certain level, maybe they get a little bit more percentage of the revenue, because that's the contract we have now, it's all percent of revenue, so, the more we earn, the more they earn. Okay. Otherwise, let's see, road race revenues were 23,708. That's a pretty final number. We had to do a lot more marketing this year for road race because we had 2 competing road race events on the same day, and it was not easy. We put a lot more work into marketing that event, but ultimately it came out okay. Let's see, we had a new center of revenue this year, which was called the local market, that was developed. The vision was developed by Ann Guy, who unfortunately is moving to Nashville, and she's like, "You don't want to help us anymore." So her husband did get a job, and they're definitely moving. Anyway, she concepted this as a way to sell things that didn't compete with the artists, because as Kevin knows, artists are very difficult to manage. They believe the festival centers around them. It's not really a music and art festival, it's an art festival. So you have to be very conscious of that, and you have to, it's a juried arts market, so you can't bring in people that don't compete for the right to be there. So bottom line is, that was really successful, and we didn't get any complaints, and it netted us an incremental $5,000 almost. So, I would say that the only other thing to note in terms of a revenue center was that Kids Fest was a big disappointment. It cost us about $1,800 this year, whereas in the past, for a banner year, was $5,000 in revenue. And, we just didn't have anyone willing to take up the task of developing it and executing it. So, what I'd really like to ask the board's support for next year is to find somebody who's willing to take it on and really go for it, because, I know we could make that a revenue center instead of a cost center. And it was just a shame that we just didn't have
Do we still give money to Inman?
Money to Inman?
Grants to Inman?
Yeah, grants, but not specifically.
Make it contingent that they run that. I mean, come on, they're gonna get free money, have them pony up.
Well, yeah,
And they've got, the PTA would probably jump at that.
Well, we can talk about the PTA. I don't like tying it to that. The Inman money the last 2 years has gone to pay for scholarships for kids who can't afford to go to the camp, and it's not.
But if you're running out of volunteers and you're running out of people to do it, it's a great way to recruit. And we gotta think a little bit differently if it's not working.
Could be the thinking, but anyway, I agree with that.
I think there's a way to, it's a good suggestion, there's a way that it could be done.
It's just that we have to start earlier,
With the velvet
and we need
glove.
one person to say, okay, I will spearhead this, and we just haven't had that yet.
I think it takes a real special personality to do that.
I think so too, it's
that
not
job.
easy.
It's
Oh, yeah.
not just a warm body, it's a warm body with a certain
It's
flavor.
really a Spark person more than an Inman person from the age of kids.
Well, we give money to Spark too.
No,
So
I'm
you have
just
to-
saying the
Yeah.
age of the kids.
Good,
Yeah,
good
good
point.
point.
Spark.
My dog's so good there.
Food vendors were 26,626, that was a decent year. We didn't have, it's a little down from last year, but last year we had a bunch of food trucks, but they didn't make enough money and they didn't want to come back. They were down in that empty space on the other side, the back entrance, and they didn't make any money. But we still did comparable to many years past. So in terms of costs, we spent more on PR, about $1,500 more, but we think we got a lot more out of our new PR person. I think she did a great job. We'll be getting a recap shortly. We spent about $1,200 on extra incremental on design to kind of do a refresh look. I mean, we've had those banners, those pole banners for, we've reused them how many years now, and we had, did you all see the suns? I thought they looked cute. We could reuse them next year, but And the same, we spent about 1,000 more on festival banners, mainly because we had that margarita tasting, which we tried, but that was kind of a flop. So, and we've incurred about 1,500 more in city fees. It seems as the years go on, we get more fees like a $22 fuel storage fee, 910 fire monitor fee, $300 tent permit, $88 cooking permit. I mean, it just, they're nickel and diming us right and left, and it's starting to add up. And, all of our costs are pretty constant over the years, but that one's been growing. Otherwise, our only cost that we don't know yet, which is really a big deal, is our cost of goods sold for beverages. Jack, you got the concessions preliminary settlement at about 5 o'clock today, and I've done my best to go through it. There are some things that are incorrect, some other things I'll need to double check against, but there's a lot of to be determined in terms of, returning product and deciding what, was the net cost of all the liquor. So I've done an estimate based on cost of goods sold in years past, and what I'm estimating this year is that, we're going to bring in about 90. That's my estimate, which is significantly down, but the weather killed us, and we've been lucky. We've never had weather kill us before. Last year we got rained out for one band, but up to that point it was pretty good. But the forecast was 100% rain the entire day, and people make their plans based on the forecast, and anybody will tell you that.
The other thing I heard, one thing I heard is that after the band at John Howe ends, a lot of people in the past have traveled down to the acoustical area down there, and we didn't do that this year. We had some stuff going on, but I heard that area was really light.
Yeah, when it was new, it was a big deal, and as the years have gone on, it's not as big a deal.
But I would imagine quite a few beverages usually get consumed.
Typically, yes, if we had more people, especially Friday night. So bottom line is, this year we tried to do a few things differently to try to inject some newness into it. The local market was new. We tried to do a margarita tasting, which worked great in terms of getting promotions on board with, Creative Low, because they love the idea of giving away free margarita tasting tickets, even though nobody really ended up using them. So it did a lot for us from a PR perspective, but, it certainly wasn't very crowded. And then, we tried to, working with the music this year, music was more expensive this year than in years past, but we brought in a person who knew it really well and who worked with Josh at Rival to try to attract some bands that are going to really draw crowds and a diverse audience. And, whether or not the music would have done that but for the weather, I don't know. But I heard a lot of good feedback on the music. It's just that it was a little more costly, and, we probably, had the rain not happened, we might have done great with the beer sales on Sunday. I don't know. So, anyway, that's it. I mean, always looking for ways to inject new life into it, but, this is the primary fundraiser for the park, which is why I keep doing it. Because until that park gets paid off, I feel like I need to do something.
And we appreciate it.
Wasn't Camera Park having the festival sometime?
Oh, thank you. That was another issue, and that really made us mad. But what can you do? Their main music, I guess they kind of started at noon, and it wasn't on Sunday. It was only Friday and Saturday. But they did have some good bands, and that was the first time that's been on the same day.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion with Josh at Rival Entertainment, hoping to maybe next year avoid that same problem, but he's got some constraints like the Tennessee, what's it called?
Bonnaroo.
Thank you, Bonnaroo.
A lot of the stuff has his booking. He can't compete with Bonnaroo. He got it bumped back a week this year. It's falling the same week next year. And the other thing that I think happened this year, we're not sure. He sold a one ticket. You had to pay $25 to walk in. There was no arts there. The more I reflect on it, the less I'm certain, other than the just kind of folks who were going to go do something this weekend, and they might have gone there, not to us. Because we're free to get in. By the time you spend money, you walk down the road.
And they were strictly music. They were
Strictly
festivals.
music.
Yeah, but they also had 5K. They have
Right.
5K race.
You know, that,
Right.
they donated
Could we
that
try to talk to them next and say, hey, guys?
We,
can-
we are.
We already met them and had the meeting with them, and it's tough. The other thing that's tough is APS is getting out. APS has got to be out for us to have them, to
Right.
use Inman. But it doesn't help when APS is out a week and a half before we have Inman, because people kick off and start vacations.
So we had a lot of families
For a long
last week.
A long time it worked just right, and now it's, this time, there were people gone. And we do that at volunteer time.
Right, when Summerfest is the week of
Yeah.
Memorial Day weekend, then you have people
Kind of what I was gonna ask, the same thing. I mean, great job to you and everyone else that
Yeah.
helps to make it happen. But I was just wondering if there were other dynamics outside of the weather that led to the causalities of lower, and I think we've kind of discussed part of that, but.
I mean, if you talk to people who are used to doing festivals on a regular basis, they will say weather will kill you.
Yeah.
It'll just kill you. And it's not the weather itself, it's the forecast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I've ever really experienced it since 2008. So I guess we'll see next year. But again, we would love to recruit some more blood to work on it and freshen it up as much as we can for next year. We can do something.
How much does it cost to have a Friday night dinner?
Oh, well, the Friday night dinner was right in line with years past. The Friday night dinner was $4,042. There were 770 meals served at $5.25 each. $1,500 was the movie fee. The Brazilian dancers were, I think, more than we wanted to spend again. But the idea was that we were
Should have come, you should have come.
idea was we were gonna get donations to help offset that, and they did get a lot of donations.
Yeah,
But
video.
yeah, it was pretty wild.
We do have video of many children in a conga line behind the Brazilian dancer. It's pretty cool.
I have the video.
Desserts,
Yeah.
$2.72, hot little biscuits at their cost.
I'd hate to touch that. That's such a fun event.
Group
Such a
donated.
I think it's such
It's
a
around
good give back. event.
6,400 total. It was 6,700 last year, 6,471 year before, 69 year before.
Yeah.
Hard to get rid of at that price, you know, people seem to.
It's just
waste
too much
so
fun. It's just too much fun.
$5.
I just wanted to add, I don't know if it's on your sheet, but the fire station fundraiser raised $4,000. So that's really helpful too. You just add that in as, had we not been there, we couldn't have. And also, I do think you've done a great job, and I think you have to look at this over the course of several years and look at that total net. I mean, of course there's ways to improve, but if you look at all the years you've been doing it, that's a lot that's been brought into the neighborhood.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Speaking of which, thanks for mentioning the firehouse. I wanted to share with the board, and I'll just leave it here. The Grady High School Dugout Club wanted to thank the VHCA for donating the booth space. They raised $22.38. And I haven't heard from Inman Oasis, but they had a booth. And then the Photo Club, big thank you from Pam Wolf for Photo Club. They raised a lot of money. So people do really appreciate, that we bring them in, and it's great to, great way to continue to manage those relationships. So anyway, on to next year, unless y'all have any questions.
No, I think it was a great job. It's, unless you touch on it, it's impossible to estimate how many meetings, how much time and effort goes into this. So, and the forecast was ridiculously calamitous. Right up to 11 in the morning, it was that this is Armageddon of weather.
Yeah.
We're all going to die. The
It
ridiculous.
was 100%, yeah.
Oh,
We were both up at 4 in the morning, right, monitoring the weather.
And yet there was a little sprinkle at 10, and though it was cloudy and comfortable. And yet, on Virginia Avenue, we parked like 100 cars. It was crazy. And there were empty spaces, legal spaces on Virginia Avenue, whereas before they got people, anyway, it was just nuts. It was,
Yeah.
so I hope that part's a one-off, and we need to look at it. Thank you for coming in, Pam.
Our net's gonna be probably around 90. I still am waiting on some final figures for cost of goods sold and some other costs, but I've estimated them based on years past, so I'm usually pretty close.
Do we ever get estimates on just pure attendance? That's hard,
No. We have is it Class B permit, 50,000?
It's not that many.
I don't know.
It's not.
one of these years, I really want to get a volunteer to, take some demographic information of attendees so that we'll have that one day, but then we all get so busy, we can never find the time to do it, but that could help us
Yeah.
get sponsors and
I
stuff.
was working all day Saturday, or else I could have helped beer sales a little bit.
It would also help.
We know who to call next year.
It also help the cost of fees, you could drop down to class C.
Oh, I don't think we could though, could we? It's not that low.
After this year, you might get
Really, I'll take a look at the rules.
it. And then drop it down.
Hey, you're doing some better, right?
Any other comments about Summerfest? Thanks.
I'll look at it, thanks.
Thanks very much. All right, Robin, comment on the tour?
Well, summertime, as soon as Summerfest ends, we start our crunch time planning for the tour. So we still have our 8 homes. We're gonna have 8 homes. It's really spread out in the neighborhood this year. We are doing our golf carts for shuttles, so we'll have a shuttle for the second time. We have a couple restaurants confirmed so far. Coots Warehouse is gonna do it again. Atkins Park is gonna do it again. So we'll need more restaurants. So last year we had 6 houses, this year we have 8. And so sometimes the restaurants only do one day. So I expect us to have a real healthy population of restaurants signed up by the time we get to the end of it. Sponsorships, we have about $40,000 signed up so far. We signed up 40,000 last year, so we've probably got another 2 to 3 weeks to sign up. So maybe, I don't know, if everyone would say yes to me, we'd probably get another 10,000, but I'd be happy if we got another 5 or 6. So I am trying out something new for this year. We always ask people that have had recent renovations or built a new house, and they're a lot of times builders are always big sponsors, interior designers, if they've worked in, they're always big sponsors. And so people that have participated in that project, granite people, cabinet people, tile people, that their product is represented in the project. We have less renovations this year than we have in the past, so I try to think of a way to reach out to those people. And so I've created a special offer that I'm piloting. And so, for example, flooring company. If they give me I'll trade them a $500 sponsorship if they give me a $500 gift certificate. And I'm going to take that $500 gift certificate and market it in our neighborhood and sell it for $250. So somebody can get $250 off flooring, appliances, HVAC, blah, blah, blah.
That's good.
On there, and there's some marketed in the neighborhood as well as somebody gets a deal, and we don't get as much probably as we would have if they sponsored directly, but we do get some money out of it, so, we'll see. Well, it's kind of our big new thing on sponsorship, so runaway, here we come.
Good. That's good. So, these 2 events have been pretty astonishing over the years. They've certainly given us a big appetite for success. Any comments, questions? Safety Committee, Emily.
So, the camera issue is, I think we're ready to probably request funding for that. There are, Jessica Masters sent a list of the priority cameras. Most of them are going to be actually right around here, on Ponce and near Ponce and Frederica. And I don't have the map with me, unfortunately, but there are, what is it, Jack, 4 cameras that we're funding? 3 that we are funding. We are waiting on a list from Jessica, I believe, of priorities and to sort of understand why these particular locations that they want to put these cameras are, what the rationale was based on, so that we can write something for the voice, I believe. So at this point, I think we're ready to request, or I'm going to make a motion for a $19,500 allocation from the board for these cameras, 3 cameras.
So Alex is matching this. This is part of the funding that Alex offered to match. These are the cameras that the Police Foundation, that Jessica recommended. We had a good meeting with her. There'd been another meeting or 2. She met with us, and Virginia-Highland and Morningside. It was a good discussion. Their rationale is a combination of, a lot of it involves their best judgment about where things need to go. It's not complete science. The good news is, we ask if there are any great examples of cause and effect, and there really aren't, but they're working on it. They're actually got some interns trying to put together some studies. Thank you, Pam. And they'll get that to us at some point. She appreciates that challenge. But Alex's money doesn't come unless we match it, and the logic of this, I think, is pretty compelling. The other three neighborhoods, of course, that he offered this to are the other three in NPU in his district. They don't have the money to do it. Morningside may try to get going on it. It's a big deal for them. And we made the point to Alex, my reservation about this is not that the cameras mightn't help, though it's hard to be sure, but probably a good notion. And this is and the three locations are, as Emily suggested. She asked us to do their top three, we're on Ponce, starting right here and going west. And those could be helpful in apprehending cars leaving. And so it seems like the right thing to do. And is there a second for the motion? Is there any discussion?
I have a question. I think we had talked about whether or not they would have the license reading capability for, like, certain red vehicle of the X number license plate. It's
At this
actually
point, they
validates.
appear to be separate technologies, so that these cameras will be focusing on the cars themselves, which you may, under some circumstances, be able to read license numbers. But the license technology is a distinct one, and it doesn't particularly look at the car, it snatches the license number. So it's good for catching you if you're not paying your parking tickets down the street, but or if they program a number. But this is their best judgment. We did not want to open it. What we really didn't want to do was have a debate inside the neighborhood about where this ought to go. We wanted an outside agency, a professional police, law enforcement agency to make a recommendation. And based on their judgment, and they consulted with Major Pete. Well, Major Pete, these are not his exact choices. A bunch of folks had a hand in them. And it is an experiment. The city is using a lot of these cameras. Some have already been put up with other funds, including the one, for example, that we've all seen so prominently down at Virginia-Highland. And so maybe they would get around to doing these without us, but Alex has made the offer. It seems like a good thing to match. And so that's been the recommendation to do it. And
So the locations aren't significantly different from what was already distributed by the
that's
agency.
correct. That's correct. They have not
That's right.
evolved, and that's fine. So we did ask if there was any chance of, since that's on the border between Kwanzaa's District 2, but Kwanzaa didn't have that plan or money, so it's us, which is fine. Yes,
So are we talking 3 cameras total or 6 cameras including the
3
Alex's money?
cameras total, paid for half by us and half by Alex.
And they're all on Ponce.
That's what the Police Foundation asked for.
Hey, that's not even the neighborhood.
Well, it's where the problems come from and where the problems go. And the purpose is for the police to be able to catch people by what they can see on those cameras. And that's where they're exiting the neighborhood after they've mugged somebody on the street and that sort of thing. So
That's where some
it
of
makes
them
good
come
sense.
from, and some of them go. Obviously,
Yeah, there
they
are
go off
other
further out.
areas of egress, but that's the most common.
So Winnie, for those who are skeptical, we can come back in 2 years and ask how many people got gone. And Jessica agreed that maybe there will be some, maybe there won't, maybe it'll be, it's not easy. It really is, you have to do some inference here. And I agree, understand that. It would have been more popular with a lot of citizens. But if we got into that, we're getting into a debate about whose street is more dangerous and where the cameras need to be, and that's just a rat hole.
Whose street's more important?
Well, and the police very carefully looked at the data from the last 12 months, and that's why they set the priority the way they did. So
Well, actually, that's not what she said.
That's what
She said that's
what
one of
Major
the
Pete
things they looked
told
at,
me.
and they did.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what Kay said.
I said, that's what Major Peak told me that he did. He gathered that data, and that's where he came up with the top 12 that were on his list.
So we have
And
some.
all the ones we're installing are in his top 12. They may not be his 1, 2, 3, but they're all in his top 12.
So we have some reporting discrepancies, because that's in fact not what Jessica told us. She said that he had looked at it, they weren't as he told us, he hadn't personally compiled them, but that they all sat down together and tried to